Tulou le atua e ana le aso. Tulou lau fionga le tau moana, le whaurulunga o le tātou universite. Tulou lau fionga le launga na ami, marama tu intergeti rote mumu. Tulou le pai o le vaatele, o le universite, ma le pulenga whaatonu o le universite. Tulou te tai o le kalesia, tulou lau fionga le tui Suva ma le vanua o nandonu mai. Tulou le vanua o viti. Tulou sui malu o malo, a me se foi ia sui ma malu o whainga malo o poto poto. Tulou whaarulunga o onga mtanga luenga, a me se paanga le nei universite, a inga mawo mai masani, a li di matamaitai. Tulou na lava. Ni Sambulinaka, welcome. It is my humble task to tell the story of the transition of the university. So rather than boring you with the technicalities of the launch process, which I don't think that you want to hear, but I'm sure the magazine that you have would give you a sense of what our transition to university looked like in the past 5 years. Let me first of all pay tribute to God, whose grace allowed us, this institution, to come this far. Today we celebrate not just the achievement of this journey, but most importantly, the purpose and the vision. The resolution to transition the college to its university was done in 2010 by the council. When I was appointed as principal in 2019, the council reminded me again of the vision that was approved in 2010. Since then, we didn't look back. As in the Pacific, when your elders and your leaders tell you to do something, you must do it, and do it with the utmost of your skills and your talents, and give it your whole life. Every story is a liquid version of life. Stories are pathways, a means by which we navigate the world. And as stories travel with generations to generations, they become liquid stories, fluid, drifting, changeable, with the potential to soothe and to unsettle. Today, we celebrate the story of the birth of the new child, PCU, the mother, PTC, who for a very long time nurtured the birth of a new story. Today, we celebrate just that. During birth, PTC shared its blood with the new child, the PCU. As we believe, blood has memories, but such blood belongs to our mothers. We only hold it in trust. When our mothers give birth to us, she shares her blood with us. Not only that, she shares the blood of her communities with us. Anyone who graduated from PTC carries the DNA of ecumenism, leadership, decolonization, indigenization, and contextual theology. Since 2019, we experienced the birth pangs of a mother ready to give birth when we went through a process of preparing everything for the child to enter this world, from our systems to structures, to a new curriculum, to capacity building, to finance, and in particular, in preparing ourselves culturally and spiritually to welcome a new child. As one of those who have been part of the birthing process, together with my team, it was not an easy process. There were fears of our incapacity to face the challenge, fears of not enough resources to ensure a safe delivery of the new child. And we had to find them ourselves. Fears that we didn't have enough support for the process. And in particular, the fears of the idea that what happens if the child dies in our hands. However, we were assured that faith operates around probabilities and opportunities rather than in certainties. Opportunity is born in the womb of potential risks. It is normally found in the corridors of uncertainties and unpredictability. These are the birthing grounds of hope and resilience. Because of the centrality of relationships, we have to allow space for flexibility and multiple movements of creativity for the sake of care, even if it involves risks. For each of us, there are milestones in our spiritual journey that change the direction of our life and set us on a new path. The moral truth, indeed, the only one possible, was that when it comes to rebuilding a shattered world as we see it today, we do not wait for permission. We give ourselves this permission. And so today, the launch of the new university, because we give ourselves this permission to provide the alternative solution to a shattered world. This giving ourselves permission is very much part of our forebears' Asian tradition. It is also central to the biblical understanding of why the birth of a nation began with Abraham, not with Noah. The point of Genesis 17, verse 1, which says, "Walk on ahead of me," is simply stunning because it is about having the courage to pioneer, to do something new, to take the road less traveled, to venture into the unknown. That is what is stunning about this university. It has broken many grounds and many rules of conventional education to ensure that we have a Pasifika community-centered university. Faith is the courage to take a risk for the sake of God and our Pasifika people. To begin a journey to a distant destination, knowing that there will be hazards along the way, but knowing also that God is with us, giving us strength if we align our will with God. Faith is not certainty, but the courage to live with uncertainty. This is our affirmation as we launch this new university today. But that is what, as leaders, understand. We take responsibility for creating the conditions through which God's purpose can be fulfilled. We begin with an envisioned future, but we also know that there is a long journey between here and there. We can only reach it with one act at a time and one day at a time. There is no miraculous shortcut. We've waited for each to grow before we introduce the other. We introduced our Bachelor of Divinity in 1966, and we waited for it to grow. Then we introduced our Masters in 1987, and we waited for it to grow. And then we introduced our doctoral programs in 2004, and then we waited for it to grow. Now, in 2025, we become a university. Last evening, we celebrated 60 years of PTC, the mother of PCU. In a biblical story, after every 50 years, the people are summoned by God and by the Jubilee year to begin again. This notion of begin again is tied to the heart of God. We begin again after we forgive the debts of our neighbors. We begin again after the land is given ample time and space to recuperate. We begin again when we learn again that God's care for the neighbor and for creation is critical. In other words, 60 years is not about the celebration of arriving at the day. It is rather a celebration of beginning again so that we don't lose these values. Today, we celebrate this child, a new beginning. We hear the first cry of PCU this week, the child that was expected. We celebrate the commitment and solidarity of the midwife God, the one who massaged and ensured safe delivery of the child. We hear the sigh of relief of the tapuaʻiga, those who have waited and prayed for its safe delivery. We hear the tears of joy from everyone who have been part of the birthing process. We know that such child will never totally disconnect herself from her mother. She will always carry her mother's blood. Her name, her genealogy, her identity, her passion, her love. As is practiced in many parts of the Pacific, the community must welcome the new child with celebration. One part of such celebration is the cutting of the umbilical cord in the whanua. It is a symbol of disconnecting from the human mother and reconnecting it to the Mother Earth. Our Pasifika identities are affirmed and reaffirmed by the constant process of connection and disconnection. When PCU disconnects from PTC, it is the beginning of a new life of solidarity with the land and community. In case that PCU forgets her mother's blood, the land holds such memory for her. That is why PCU must always be connected to the whanua, to communities, which is why the name Pasifika Communities University was first created. But as we celebrate today, we all know that the child cannot live and survive alone. The community must become the new home of the child. The child must be nurtured in the community and by the community. This collective nurturing ensures the child's survival and long-term growth. She must be taught and constantly reminded of the life-affirming values of being a community. She must uphold the legacy of her mother, PTC, that we must fight for our ideals, reaffirm them wherever we can. She must fight for decolonization, for justice for the vulnerable and oppressed. She must never be afraid to call out the injustices in our social, political, economic systems and structures. She must be taught of the prophetic tradition of PTC and the Bible. And in particular, the child must always hold fast to God as its foundation. We don't want to copy other universities to be like others that have lost spirituality under the control of the cults of secularism. This is the gift of relationship that we must share with the child. Nothing navigates and voyages solo. The I is always oriented towards the we, and vice versa. I am in the land is in me. I am in the community is in me. The one is always part of the many, and the many is made up of different ones. We voyage together with others, with ancestors, with land, sky, ocean, and wind, and in particular with God. And because of the centrality of relationships, Pasifika communities prefer the real and the touchable, the rigorous incarnation, the face-to-face, uncompromising there-ness. Let me end this story. Today, we must not just celebrate the birth of a new child. We must also not just celebrate what our forebears built since 1961, the values and ideals, our ecumenism and the Christian faith they held: love, reciprocity, freedom, respect of diversity, forgiveness, restraint, and the common good. Rather, we must celebrate purpose. Such purpose is birthed not just from the remembering our past, but also the will to constantly fight for the values and ideals that this institution stands for. Before I take my seat, I want to acknowledge the following. Acknowledgements is printed in page 42 of the Launch magazine before you. A special acknowledgement I want to share with you to end my story. I want to first of all acknowledge God for everything, for the knowledge to discern the truth and the light in times of darkness, for the strength through what seems to be none, and for the resilience and hope in where there is nothing. Second, I want to acknowledge the chair, members of the council, our executive committee, our partners, our former staff and faculty, our consultants, our alumni, our friends, our Pacific Ecumenical Community family for the great support during this transition. I want to acknowledge the Vanua. Thank you for making us part of your family, for blessing us with your land, your culture, your hospitality, your people, and trusting in us to work together to collectively address some of the rising issues in our society, which is why we have put a seat of the Vanua not only in our executive board, but also in our council, the Vaai. This is to recognize this love of the Vanua for PTC, and we hope that we'll continue to move together in the future. I want to acknowledge my church, the Methodist Church of Samoa, for the vision to release me to serve the region through PTC since 2014. I know it was a hard decision at the time, but perhaps God had other plans. That it was for me to lead this vision together with the council and members of PTC. Thank you for trusting in me as your flag bearer in the regional level. Last but not least, I want to deeply acknowledge my community at PTC. And let me invite all the community of PTC to please be upstanding. Wherever you are seated, please be upstanding. This is your team that led the transition from 2019. Please be seated. From faculty, staff, students, and our children, our spouses, our families, our community, including my wife, Tuama Sanga, and the children. BTC, you all have made history. Today, this time, this moment will go down in history as memory. Memory about your resilience, your passion, your commitment to be part of the story. If you have taught me a lesson, it is this. It is hope. I needed you, and you answered. Thank you for all the hard work that you did. My prayer is that may the spirit of cooperation and love and compassion continue to burn in you. The spirit of solidarity and commitment to a purpose. A special acknowledgement to this person who from the beginning we discussed the initial idea of the vision. Since then, we continue to work together, and that is Director Aisake Casimiro. Thank you for your rare wisdom that provided clarity for the way forward. Let me say, I must not get the credit alone. It is my team, our PTC community, that were responsible for today's vision, and I owe it to them. May this occasion be a memory that will guide the vision and passion of many generations to come. Soifua.